one could make it into the Scarfo organization without doing some work. This was the euphemism mob members used to describe taking part in a murder. Killing someone was the final rite of passage. You could not be made until you had helped take a life. At the time Nicholas the Crow Caramondi and Charlie White were assigned to Pat Spirito, they had not done any work. But 1982 was a good year for would-be mobsters. There were more than enough contracts out on the street. Salvatore Salvi Testa was moving about ruthlessly, avenging his father's death, and little Nicky Scarfo was solidifying his hold on the organization by settling old scores. The level of violence escalated even further when Scarfo opened an offensive against Harry the Hunchback Riccobene, the old Bruno ally who was one of the few mobsters standing in the way of Scarfo's absolute and total control of the organization. As far as appearances go, Harry the Hunchback Riccobene could not have been less intimidating. Barely 5 feet tall, with a squeaky voice, a long, bushy white beard, and, as you might expect from his nickname, walking with a slump due to a curvature of the spine he had had since birth. Riccobene did not look like much to contend with, but he was. Born in Sicily on July 27, 1909, Harry Riccobene came to the United States with his family as a young boy, settling in South Philadelphia and quickly gravitating to a life of crime. Law enforcement records indicate he was inducted into the mob by Prohibition-era Don Salvatore Sabella when he was only 17 years old. Old Harry was an independent guy. Every year at Christmas, he'd send Bruno a little something, and that would be it. For the rest of the year, he was on his own. A Philadelphia police detective explained. And on his own, Riccobene did quite well. He had a group of relatives, half-brothers and nephews, and associates who worked his loan sharking, gambling, vending machine, and methamphetamine ventures. It was a mob within a mob, and while Bruno was boss, it didn't seem to matter. We started having problems with the Riccobenes in '82. Harry refused to pay the street tax, and he was thumbing his nose at my uncle. This drove my uncle crazy. He would say, "This fuck thinks he's gonna make a jerk-off out of me? Oh yeah? We'll fucking see about that." We tried everything to bring him in, to get him on board. But Harry, he was a stubborn old-time sickie. He made it clear that he didn't acknowledge my uncle as his boss, and that he wasn't gonna pay us. He left us no fucking choice. We had to kill him. Caramondi began to hear bits and pieces about the Riccobene contract shortly after Mickey Diamond's murder. Chucky Merlino referred to Riccobene as a rat and said he was an FBI informant who deserved to die. If Riccobene was an informant, that fact probably would have come out during the 1982 RICO trial, in which he and several top Scarfo associates, including Ciancaglini and Spirito, were defendants. The trial, postponed after the Narducci murder, eventually began in May of 1982 and ended with all 6 defendants convicted. Riccobene sat at the defense table with Spirito and Ciancaglini each day, helping attorneys plot their legal defense. At the same time, Ciancaglini and Spirito were plotting Riccobene's murder. This might seem strange to someone not familiar with the workings of the criminal underworld, but life inside the Scarfo organization was a 3-dimensional chess game. Plots and intrigue unfolded on several different levels, and collisions occurred on various planes. So, for months during the Riccobene War, protagonists would be in each other's company, and on the surface, at least, appear to be getting along. They would socialize at weddings and funerals. If they happened to be in the same restaurant, they'd greet each other warmly and buy each other rounds of drinks. It was all part of the MAFIA machismo that had taken over the Scarfo organization. All part of a battle being fought on Scarfo's terms. A battle of cunning, guile, and deceit. The old man, Funzi, Marconi, he used to tell me when I first got started, "You ever heard of the double cross? In this business, you gotta watch for the triple cross. You gotta always be fucking alert. There's so much jealousy. Guys always trying to set you to fuck up, put you in traps, trying to get you killed. There is so much viciousness in this thing." Pat Spirito had gotten the Harry Riccobene contract. He was told to use Charlie White. Eventually, Caramondi was brought in to help out as well. For both Ianich and Caramondi, this was a step up. It was their first chance to do some work, to show that they were worthy of the badge. They and other members of the Scarfo mob would spend months trying to nail Harry Riccobene and several of his associates. This one time, Pat tells Charlie he's gonna bring Harry around. It's March of '82, just after we'd opened the club. He says he's gonna take him in the back room. Then he tells him, "When I walk out, I'm gonna ask him if he wants coffee, or a fucking Coke, or something. That's when you hit him with the pipe." He had this pipe about 15 inches long. Then we'll shoot him in the fucking head. And at nighttime, we'll take him out and dump him. But Harry, he never showed up. Another time, Salvi and Chicky Ciancaglini, they come around. They got a tip that Harry would be on 17th Street, between Shunk and Oregon, at around 6 o'clock. He's there to pick up some girl. So, Pat, he comes to the clubhouse to pick up Charlie. But the next day, Charlie tells me. We had him. He came out of the car. He opened the fucking car door on the driver's side. All we had to do was pull the fuck up beside him and I could have plugged him. But Pat! This motherfucker didn't want to do it. He fucking wimped out. Charlie was disgusted. But that's the way things were going. In April, after several attempts to ambush Harry Riccobene had failed, Scarfo decided on a more insidious form of treachery. And so, he sent his consigliere, Frank Monti, and Raymond Long John Martirano, then a suspect in the McCullough murder, to see Harry's half-brother, Mario, Sonny Riccobene. Mario knew Long John. They both were in the methamphetamine business. What Martirano and Monty proposed was that Mario set his half-brother up. Mario listened, and then he said he would get back to them. He then went to see his brother, Harry Riccobene. That is what forced the Riccobene war out in the fucking open. For the next year and a half, a battle would rage on the streets of South Philadelphia. Harry Riccobene had been cautious, suspicious of Scarfo. He had hoped to avoid open warfare. It was only after Monty and Martirano tried to co-opt his brother that Riccobene decided to act. Mario Riccobene's answer was delivered to Frank Monty outside a service station in southwest Philadelphia on May 13th by Joseph Padula and Victor DeLuca, two Riccobene associates. Padula was lying in ambush in a camper mounted on the back of a small pickup truck. The truck was parked across the street from the service station, where Monty had left his car. Padula had a .22 caliber rifle with a telescopic sight. DeLuca and another associate waited in a nearby bar. Shortly after 9 p.m., Monty showed up for his car. Padula got him in his sight and squeezed the trigger, and squeezed again, and again, and again. Monty, 49, was shot 5 times in the back and head. There were also bullet wounds in his left hand, right arm, and upper right arm. The mob consigliere had $600 in cash in his pocket when the police found him lying semi-conscious in the street near the gas station at 9:30 p.m. that night. He was pronounced dead a half hour later. Monty's name was near the top of a hit list drawn up by the Riccobenes after Mario was approached that spring and asked to set up his brother. The Riccobenes, in turn, were on top of a list prepared by Scarfo and his henchmen. For the remainder of 1982, and for all of 1983, squads of gunmen cruised the streets of South Philadelphia, looking for targets. We were stalking Harry all over the fucking city. We were going to places where he hung out, where his mother lived, where he lived. We were trying to set up different spots. One day, we followed him down Passyunk Avenue, but we fucking lost him. Now at this time, We're still shaking guys down. We're doing extortions. We're trying to get Harry. This is all going on every fucking day. Now, that summer, we went down the shore to see one of those heavyweight fights on the big closed-circuit televisions. Nikki's there. This was right before he went away. Lawrence Merlino, Phil Leonetti, a lot of guys, Tommy and Fafi. So after the fight, Nicky Scarfo says he wants to talk to Pat. We go downstairs to the bar and Nicky gets him on the side. He says to him, "Listen, you gotta kill this fucking guy. This fuck Sonny. Get it the fuck done." So we started with Sonny. Me, Charlie, and Pat. We're stalking him. We go to his house, his job. We're working from 7 o'clock in the morning till all hours of the fucking night. Most of the time it's just me and Charlie. We went to Sonny's girlfriend's house, up in Huntington Valley. He used to sleep there a couple of nights a week. But it was a tough place to get him. Because there were big, wide streets up there. Nowhere to lay a fucking ambush. We went out to Trenton, where we heard he did business with some guy named Buckley. He settles on a Sunday night with the numbers. We went there and laid there with Red Pontani. We had shotguns. But that never panned out. Every day Pat would go around to Chicky, give him a blow-by-blow description. Because you gotta report to your capo. In this thing, you gotta tell your capo everything you do. Your capo tries to help you. He tells you to be careful. And if he can, he'll give you a tip. Like the fuck is gonna be somewhere. Or how to get somebody to set the fuck up. But this shit with Sonny Riccobene was pretty fucking frustrating. Pat the Cat Spirito was not cut out for the Scarfo mob. He had come out of Trenton and moved to South Philadelphia at a time when mob members were low-key operators, concentrating on gambling, loan sharking, and bookmaking. He was an associate of Chicky Ciangullini and rode his coattails right into the organization. He was greedy and ambitious, attributes that Scarfo could appreciate, but he lacked the killer instinct. He thought he could slide by generating enough money to keep the little guy down the shore satisfied, but he underestimated Scarfo's bloodlust. Spirito was a moneymaker, but he was also a whiner, a complainer. 1982 started out well, but ended badly for Pat the Cat. He had set up his headquarters at 18th and Bancroft Streets and was supervising both the shakedowns and a lucrative gambling operation that police estimated was bringing in more than $1 million a year for the operation. But his activities were attracting too much attention. Spirito correctly surmised that the feds had placed hidden listening devices in his clubhouse. Before the year was out, he moved his operation to K-Mac and Moore Streets, just off East Passyunk Avenue. A friend of Caramondi's had rented out an old plumbing supply store. This became the new center for Spirito's outfit. It was, in fact, a prime location. East Passyunk Avenue, a tree-lined promenade of shops, stores, bars, and restaurants. is the hub of South Philadelphia. Spirito's personal problems became a constant headache for those associated with him, particularly Caramondi and Charlie White in each. Caramondi had spent years dealing with Mickey Diamond, but nothing he had been through before prepared him for the bitching, the moaning, and the backbiting of Pat the Cat. We're getting bugged with this fuck, me and Charlie. He was a pain in the fucking ass. Always beefing. Always complaining. See, this guy, Pat, if he had problems with his wife, we would talk to his wife. Then we would have to stay with him from 11 o'clock in the morning till 1 or 2 o'clock the next morning. He used to call us on the fucking phone, have us on the phone for 2 or 3 hours, always beefing about something, about somebody. Guys in the neighborhood. So while the cat was away in the can on contempt charges, we're handling the shakedowns. We're bringing his wife his end. In the meantime, me and Charlie go see Ciancaglini. We tell him we don't want to be with this guy no more. We don't like the way he's talking about people. It's all nonsense. But Ciancaglini says, would you listen to the two of yous? You gotta be with them. That's the way it is. So, one day while Pat's in jail, I go visit him. And he says to me, Scarfo's no fucking good. Chucky's no good. Salvy's no fucking good either. Philip's no good. Lawrence is no good. They're all out for themselves. They just leave you hanging to fucking rot. This is treason talk. I tell Charlie, I don't gotta listen to this shit. This motherfucker is nuts. We go back and see Ciancaglini again and ask if we gotta be with this guy. Again, he says yeah. After spending 11 days in jail, Spirito finally agreed to appear before the grand jury, answering its questions in a way he hoped would not implicate anyone. He was released on September 14th. Caramondi was there to take him home. We drive right to 9th and Catherine, and he tells Chicky everything turned out okay. He goes home. But the next day, this fuck, he's beefing again. These guys, they're no fucking good. None of them. They don't give a fuck about you, about me. Fuck 'em. Spirito said one night, as he and Caramondi sat drinking in a Passyunk Avenue bar. What are you talking about? Caramondi asked, playing dumb. Scarfo. And that fuck, Testa. That motherfucker. I'll pull his other fucking arm off. I'll cripple the motherfucker with his other arm. Fucking cocksucker. All of them. Motherfuckers. Caramondi decided he wanted no part of the conversation. I says to myself, this guy is fucking crazy. I call Charlie up. I tell him to get the fuck over here. I don't like the way Pat is talking. This kind of talk can get you killed. It was about this time that Ciancaglini came up with a tip that seemed to seal the fate of Sonny Riccobene. Instead, it proved to be Pat Spirito's undoing. One day, Chicky sends for us. Somebody had died and Sonny's gonna be at this funeral Friday night. Chicky tells us this on a Thursday. He says, definitely, Sonny's gonna be at this funeral. He gives us the address of the funeral parlor. It was right off Interstate 95. Big fucking funeral parlor. So we stake out the joint and we see a good place to park. I'm gonna be the driver. Charlie and Pat's gonna be the shooters. We got a shotgun and a .38. We're all set. So the next day, me and Charlie, we're up early. Pat comes around noon and he starts drinking. We're sitting in Mara's, a restaurant on Passyunk Avenue. And all day he's saying, you think he's gonna show up? I mean, this intel is legit, right? He's gonna be there? I mean, are we sure he's gonna be there? So I says, well, Pat, we gotta go. Chicky is giving the order. At 5 p.m., Spirito left the restaurant to go home and have dinner. He told Caramondi and Charlie White to drive around to Riccobene's house to see if he was there. Caramondi and Ianich drove past the house and did not see Riccobene's car. They headed back to the clubhouse on K-Mac and more and called Spirito at home. We said, look, Pat, the car's not there. We better get over there to that funeral parlor. But he says, no, he wants to eat first. So I tell him, we'll wait for him in Mara's restaurant. We'll get something to eat while we wait for him. I tell him, just hurry up, man. About 7:15, 7 o'clock, he calls up. He says to me, I don't think this guy's gonna show up. I don't think he's gonna show. So I says, Christ, Pat, we better get up there. This came from Chick, man. We cannot ignore it. And he says, yeah, I'll be around in a little while. Now, we're waiting and waiting. He don't come around till after 8. And when he does, he says, I don't think this guy's gonna show. I mean, there's no sense going all the way up there. It's like a 25-minute drive. I kick Charlie under the table. And I says, look, me and Charlie better get up there. What the fuck? Somebody's gotta go. This motherfucker, Pat, he was all dressed up with a tie and sport jacket. You would have thought he was going to a fucking funeral. All right. If you guys want to go up there, go ahead. So we get our 38 and Charlie drives to the funeral parlor. When we get there, it must have been close to 9 o'clock. There's a couple of guys standing outside. We asked for Chick, and they say he left about 20 minutes ago. So we shoot back downtown, back to the restaurant. Pat's there. He says to us, "You don't know what happened. Chick just left, and he's pissed because Chick caught him dead. That fuck Riccobene was there. Right fucking there." So Chick says to Pat, "Where the fuck is Nick and Charlie?" Pat tells him, "We went up there, to the funeral parlor." So he says to Pat, "Why ain't you up there?" Little did we know at the time, but Pat told him that we didn't want to do it. This cocksucker lied to Chick. Told him we didn't like it. This was the fucking treachery. Now he tells us that Chick is pissed off and that he wants to see the three of us. This motherfucker. It turns out Chick had walked Sonny out of the funeral parlor into the parking lot. Just him and Sonny. And this motherfucker was on crutches. We had him dead. Chick was so fucking pissed off because this was 8-9 fucking months that we couldn't get Harry, we couldn't get Sonny, and here the motherfucker is standing right here on fucking crutches. Yeah. Chick was pissed. Me and Charlie, we talked later. We said it was a good thing that we went up there, especially after Pat lied. But he got caught in his own trap. The next day we meet, me, Pat, and Charlie. This motherfucker doesn't want to go see Chicky. I says to him, "Listen, we gotta go. No matter what." What, you think you got a fucking choice? About 4 p.m. that afternoon, Caramondi, Ianich, and Spirito headed over to Ciancaglini's clubhouse at 9th and Catherine. When they walked into the store, Chucky Merlino, the family underboss, and Salvi Testa were sitting there. In a back room, Ciancaglini was playing cards. They were waiting for Ciancaglini to finish playing his hand when Merlino called Caramondi over. "Hey, Crow. Come here. I want to talk to you." Off to the side of the room, Merlino lit into Caramondi. "What the fuck happened last night, huh?" "Hey, Chuck. I only do what I'm told," Caramondi replied, as sweat began to roll down his lower back. "You fucking guys. Your outfit stinks," Merlino screamed. Then he and Salvi walked out the door. Caramondi was certain Spirito and Ianich heard Merlino, but he decided to say nothing more about it. Minutes later, Ciancaglini called all three of them into the back room, where he told them they were off the Sonny Riccobene contract. "Just get the fuck off of it for a little while. Now get the fuck out of here. All of yous. Caramonde and Ianich were beside themselves. Spirito had put them in the middle of something that could cost them their lives. Later, they decided to seek a second private meeting with Ciancaglini. The next morning, Sunday, we go right to Chick's house. It's about 8:30. Fuck this Pat. This lion rat fuck ain't gonna get us killed. We say to Chick, we gotta talk to you. He says, come on in. He makes coffee, and we say, look, Chick, we're not trying to beef on the guy, but we were ready from 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? This guy didn't want to go. Charlie and me, we were ready. We were strapped, we were loaded, we were ready to go. This motherfucker did not want to go. I just need you to know that we were fucking ready. It's a good thing you guys came here. 'Cause yous two were in a shitload of trouble. He told me you guys didn't want to go. So, Chick says he would straighten it out with Chucky. From then on, we had our guard up for Pat. After the funeral parlor attempt, we're off the fucking contract. So, one day, Gino, Milano, and Salvi, they come around when I'm not there. I come back and Pat says that Salvi was around and he wants me to go take him to Sonny's house up in Huntington Valley. So I says, what, me alone? And Pat says, yeah. So I says, why me? And he says, I don't know. He just wants you to take him. I am scared shitless. I says to Pat, come with me. But this cocksucker, he says no. Now my fucking antennas are up all over the fucking place because of this fuck Pat. You never know what he might have told Chick. One day he's complaining about me, and the next day he's complaining about Charlie. He's fucked up like that. This motherfucker. This fucking cocksucker. So, I tell Charlie something is up. Why the fuck would Salvi want me to go there by myself? I mean, I didn't even know Salvi that well. Really, only to say hello and goodbye. I mean, I wasn't a made guy. I was just around Pat. Salvi's a fucking capo. What the fuck does he want with me? Charlie says not to worry. He says he'll go with me. So, we get into the station wagon. It's about 2:30. We go over and meet Salvi. I try to talk him out of it. I tell him I might not be able to find the place. I hadn't been there for a while. But he says, come on, take a ride. Maybe you'll remember when we get up there. I figure there's something wrong here. I am on premium fucking petrol. Scared shitless. I figured Pat had to have said something. So, I try to talk Salvi out of it again. But he says, we're going for a ride. Let's go. To top it off, he calls Anthony Punchatori to go with us. Now, I don't know this kid. He's Joe Punch's brother, okay? I'm figuring, what the fuck is going on here? Why would this kid come, right? And Anthony Punch, this motherfucker, he's got a jacket on. I can't tell if this motherfucker's got a gun inside the fucking jacket. Now, I know this kid's brother Joe is a made guy. And this is the way things are done. The viciousness of it put me in a fucking car, drive up there and then shoot me in the fucking head. We walk outside. I am worried about this Anthony Punchatori, figuring he's got a gun, and I'm figuring it's for me. So we're walking to the car. Charlie's gonna drive. The four of us walk out. Now, I go for the back door. Salvi says, no, sit in the front. Holy shit. I reach for the front door, but at that point, I don't know whether to fucking run. I don't know what to do. But I open the door and I get in the fucking car. Anthony Punch and Salvi are sitting in the back. As we're driving, we're talking bullshit talk. I'm turned around, see, I got my body turned around facing Punch. I want to make sure. I was fucking paranoid. I couldn't figure out what I did wrong. You know, what the fuck did I do wrong? They found Sonny Riccobene's girlfriend's house in Huntington Valley, and Salvi, after seeing the place and the neighborhood around it, was satisfied with Caramondi's explanation that it was not a good spot for an ambush. Caramondi, still keeping an eye on Anthony Punchatori, began to think that maybe that's all the trip was about, that he was not a target after all. On the ride back downtown, he began to relax, and after he and Charlie White dropped Salvi and Anthony Punch off at 9th and Catherine, Caramondi breathed a sigh of relief. He had spent an afternoon facing the prospect of dying. Death, real or imagined. At no other time in his life had he felt himself in so much jeopardy. He had been in tight spots before, but he had always been able to plan and scheme, to anticipate. On this occasion, he had been trapped. He was moving closer to the mob's inner circle, and as he moved, he found it was harder and harder to take a step back. Murder was now a part of his life. On the ride back to South Philadelphia, Salvi told Caramondi and Charlie White that he would now be overseeing the stalking of the Riccobenes. Scarfo was becoming restless. He had been sending messages to Philadelphia. He wanted to hear some noise. Salvi Testa hoped to accommodate the boss.